Good morning. Um, I am less than a week from leaving for Japan. Got most of stuff sorted out for church for the rest of the month, um, and that's fun. That's exciting. Um, and I'm not sure. I think Jennifer Foster is going to cover at least one of the weeks I'm gone for morning prayer, and I'm going to ask Glenda. I haven't told her yet. Um, but I don't think I'll have a problem finding somebody for the other 2 weeks. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I leave on Tuesday. I'm excited. I leave Norfolk on Monday, and then I'm gonna go spend the night up with a friend Monday night, and fly out from Dulles on Tuesday morning. Um, we haven't had morning prayer on Wednesday for the last 2 weeks because of New Year's and Christmas, and I thought we could. Oh, I thought it'd be neat to talk a little bit about Christianity in Japan, because that's where I'll be going, and we haven't talked a ton about, I don't know, Christianity across the world. So just gonna share a little bit about that. Give us a different perspective about how people view Christianity across the world, and um, in the context of a global culture, and what Christianity like looks like in Japan. So um, yeah. As far as the history of Christianity in Japan, um, it's I pulled up a page, but essentially, um, as mostly merchants came to Japan in like the 1500s uh, from Europe. Um, there were a lot of merchants that came, and they sold guns and gunpowder, and missionaries came along with them. And at first, the missionaries were kind of tolerated, because along with the missionaries came guns, and guns are really handy. So, uh, which is interesting because gunpowder originated in the East. Um, but, anyways, it kind of came a little full circle. But, yeah, so modern Western weapons of the time came to Japan, a number of other goods and such. Missionaries were tolerated and moderately successful, um, but in general disliked. And they were disliked, and ultimately, kind of like Christianity was banned in Japan, for a number of pretty good reasons. Essentially, the um, Christian missionaries had a lot of, um, let me see. Uh, Accusing the religion of obstructing the authorities, antisocial behavior, and intolerance towards the established religions. After a rebellion in the Shimabara Peninsula that involved many Christians in the late 1630s, thousands of rebels were executed, and a full ban on Christianity became strictly enforced. Only small pockets of hidden Christians continued practicing their religion in secret. And there were a couple other. Oh, here's the phrase I was looking for. This is 1587. Toyotomi Hideyoshi issued an edict banning missionaries from the country due to the religion's political ambitions, intolerant behavior towards Shinto and Buddhism, and connections to the sale of Japanese people as slaves overseas. So, yeah, there was a lot of problems, and that association of Christianity is not uncommon across the world, and that's a bummer, and something to be aware of. Yeah. So that didn't go so hot, and then basically a new group rose to power, that was more unifying and didn't really care about Christianity because all this really bad stuff had happened quite a while ago. But one thing that I think is interesting on the front of religious freedom is when I first got to college, there was basically some of the professors in the religious studies department helped run a sort of facility and organization, I don't know, called the Center for the Study of Religious Freedom. I thought that was super weird. I was like, why do we need to study religious freedom? And like, haven't we kind of figured this thing out? Like, I don't know, man. Which was obviously I did not know at the time, but a very ignorant view. There's more religious persecution around the world now, as particularly of Christians, than there has ever been in the history of the universe. And that's something to like keep in mind and remember. And that's pretty wild. And we very much are not good about having like religious tolerance and religious freedom. And one thing that I really love about religious freedom is that it's, in essence, especially as interpreted by like the U.S. court system, to just fundamentally mean, the right to like personal opinion and belief, and the idea that the state or a state religion can't control the idea of truth, and that like ultimately it's up to all of us to discern. And while that might seem silly in some cases, like disseminating that power and that strength and that expectation can help mitigate some of the damage done by people, especially in power, that would distort the idea of the truth. One thing that I do see in America and even particularly in Christian spaces, is kind of a negative view towards religious freedom. I definitely see a positive view, and like the idea that Christian beliefs should be protected, and I frequently see this in like context of public schools and the right to pray or carry a Bible or whatever, or wear something like a cross on a T-shirt, and which I've heard people be afraid of, like things like that, and I've never had I've never had someone in my vicinity or heard of someone like getting in trouble for that stuff. But I also see a lot of people in the Christian sphere not being a huge fan of the idea of religious freedom or religious diversity, and taking more of a Christian nationalism approach and feeling like this is the way that America should be or is designed, and this is what's important. And I've probably said before, but I had a supervisor at the camp that I worked at that used to say, all truth is God's truth. And C.S. Lewis used to say, the truth is like a lion. It doesn't much need defending. It just needs to be let out of the cage and it can defend itself. But I'm a very huge advocate for, open and public discussion and pursuits, and like the idea that God's truth will rise to the top. And that's that. So yeah, that's all to say. Freedom of belief, generally, I think a good thing. And we can see how it has gone quite poorly the opposite around the world as Christianity spread. But yeah, so that was some of the history, and I think there are a couple million Christians in Japan, which is relatively few, about 1%. Um, as far as culture, a few like Christian culture elements have come through, including celebration of Valentine's Day and Christmas, both in a much more traditionally secular fashion. An interesting Christmas tradition is they eat KFC, because of like a really effective KFC marketing like marketing strategy or whatever back in like the 80s or something. Um, that's really funny. But um, weddings typically feature like a white bridal dress or whatever, and the reading of vows, and will frequently take place in a church. That's a kind of appreciated view or whatever. And in general, Christianity is viewed reasonably positively over there now, which is good, and that's cool. But yeah, Christianity has a very interesting cultural element because of its ties with the West and history. And so I've mentioned before, and most of you guys know, I've watched a fair amount of anime, and seeing different views of Christianity portrayed in anime very usually occurs in like a like looking at kind of a historical like Catholic kind of viewpoint, and seeing the structure of like fathers or bishops and like cardinals, and this big kind of institutionalized Christianity. Local spirits are more popular in like Eastern and especially Japanese folklore and tradition and religion, and so portraying the church as a player in the sort of spiritual realm is a popular motif or a popular theme. I got to share or one series that I'm somewhat familiar with and read a few books in. It's called Spice and Wolf, and it follows like kind of a medieval narrative of paganism versus like the church. And another series that I think walks a fine line, but that is interesting and exploratory, is called Saint Young Men, and plays with very loose ideas of Buddha and Jesus in like the heavens, and the idea that they go on vacation by getting an apartment together in Japan, and they like go and do stuff around Japan, and get to have like a little mini vacation. And it's just interesting seeing the little ways that that Christianity is perceived in the global space. And I'm sure I'll be able to find some other cool stuff and come back and share. Yeah. It's important to think about like our Christian family and church in other places around the world. And remember that, we're all a part of the same body following the same God. And also to remember that, the whole world is our parish, or that as we prepare to go to places like Tanzania, or do independent travel like to Japan, we're always ambassadors of Christ, and better understanding how people around the world perceive Christianity and perceive the idea of God can help us better understand God's heart and how to share God's heart with his people. So, yeah, that's all. I know this was a little chaotic, but yeah, I'll say a prayer. Hey, God, please look after me and my brother and my sister-in-law as we travel and as we're in Japan. Please watch over our health and all the logistics to help us get there safely and have a good time. And God, help me serve as an ambassador of you, and help me understand and learn the things that you want me to learn and be a part of. Thank you, God. In your name, amen. So I hope all goes well at the church, and I will see you guys back in February. I will still be there this Sunday, but I'll leave like the next day. So, all right. Big love to everyone, and I'll catch you later.